Hey everybody, welcome to the Purpose People podcast. Today I've got Brandon Dell from B Scale. So welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So we have the younger version of Simon Dell.
Yes, a lot of people would say that. Yeah.
So obviously, we look at entrepreneurs from all ages, and obviously you're young to the game, so to speak. But you have been entrepreneurial for quite a while in your young years.
Yeah.
So I argue it's not too far back. But was this where you are now? What you wanted to do from school?
It wasn't, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
I think growing up, seeing my dad and the way he was showed me, the entrepreneurial side to life and what that looks like, and instilled different things in me. But I always wanted to be a footballer. However, probably from about, I don't even know why, like the age of 11 or 12, I remember I would like stay up late and my dad wouldn't know, and I'd be watching like business seminars on my phone and things like that, and reading books. And I think gradually over time I was learning more and exposed to more about business. However, I always thought I was going to be a professional footballer. So
what's your team?
Man United, Daryl, you know that. Best team in the world.
Were,
yeah. Yeah.
So how far did you go in the sports thing, or when? Because I think for every footballer, and it's a hard thing, even when it's a kid, you have to admit to yourself at some point it's not going to happen. When did you realise, or are you still thinking that when you're out on the park one day, someone
might spot me?
There he is.
Yeah, honestly.
The solution to Man United's problem.
Yeah, the amount of times I thought that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
No, it is really tough being in sports at a high level when you're growing up, especially, as a teenager. I think for me, my journey with football was very turbulent. Mm-hmm. And looking back now, I know I was never meant to be a professional footballer, and it is so difficult to make it. It really is.
Yeah.
But the factor for me was when I was about 14, I was being looked at by a scout from Bristol City, actually.
Okay.
And they said I was at the level, but I wasn't enough for them to sacrifice one of their current players and take me on. And they just told me to keep working. So I always thought, okay, I've got some time left. And then I had heart surgery.
Wow.
When I was 14, and that affected me quite a lot. And I carried on playing, and I was training like all the time, 8 hours a day. Quite literally, I was obsessed. And then when I was about 17, I had 3 back-to-back tears in the same ankle in the space of a year. And I just lost love for playing and competing, at that level. Yeah.
So what about the heart surgery? Where did that come from? What happened there?
So my dad has got a heart condition, and he got diagnosed with it when he was about 24. They said it's not hereditary, but somehow I have it. So
Right.
I think it is.
Right.
And basically, when I was around 11, I used to get these palpitations just randomly.
Yeah.
When I was exercising, and they started to become more frequent. Mm-hmm. And people don't believe me when I say this, but the most vivid time I remember, I was in hospital, because I used to have to go to hospital when I would have an episode, and my heart rate was like 274 beats per minute. So we have a pathway on our heart where our beats go, and I had an extra one. So randomly, I don't know what would cause it, but like I would have beats going down 2 pathways at the same time, if you could imagine that.
Yeah.
So I had extra like electrical wires, they call around my heart. So that used to happen randomly when I play football and affect me quite a lot. And as you can imagine, caused anxiety when I'm playing, or I might have an episode here.
Yeah.
So they wanted to put me on tablets, but I was only 14 and it would have slowed me down. So the only other option was surgery. So it was keyhole surgery. So they put me to sleep, cut through my leg, and then went down my throat and connected wires together, and they froze the pathway.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
And now you're fine.
It's absolutely fine. My dad has had 2 surgeries and it hasn't sorted him out.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which is interesting. But for me, I've had no problem since. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously you obviously then with the ankle injury and whatever, I guess, did you now have more time on your hands where you then started to watch more like entrepreneur videos and stuff like that, or were you thinking about what the next move could be?
Yeah, I think so. If you told me at 16 that I wouldn't be a professional footballer, I would have told you, like, that's nonsense. Like, I was so certain and so sure. And looking back now, that's given me a lot of wisdom to help other people, I think, because
Yep.
I was so dead set on that and nothing could change my mind. And as time went on, because of how I applied myself, it was almost exhausting. And I thought that becoming a professional footballer would solve a lot of problems in my life.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Yeah.
that's the truth.
Yeah.
So when I kept getting injured, then I realized, okay, this is exhausting. Do I really want to keep pushing on? And I was trying to start a business on the side and look into business. And it was actually at the same point that I started coming to church and that I started building a relationship with God at the same time that I got injured.
Yeah.
And I felt like my path was steering me towards business more so. So, you know, you tear the ligaments in your ankle, you go through physio and rehab for 12 weeks.
Yeah.
You're watching your mates play and you're on the side. And I played like semi-pro, so it was a good level.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you come back after all of that physio. I'm traveling to Bristol every day because I went to a football college in Bristol. And then I tore it again. And then I went through rehab again and physio. And I came back and I tore it a third time. And after that, it's just like, I was in like a low place at that point.
Yeah, of course.
Because I would go to college and my ankles barely work and I'm only 17, you know? And I've been going through the motions really trying to get back and it's just not working. And you see everyone else and they're progressing and time's going on and you're like, should I really continue doing this, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because, like, I think for me that was my aim, like football, and our school was very much a rugby school,
Right.
and it was like, come on, you got to play rugby, and I enjoyed playing it, and I was actually quite good at it. I kind of worked out that you could score more points if you just kick the ball between the posts.
Yeah.
So why are we trying to get the ball over the line? Why don't we just like get a gap and pump it over?
Yeah.
And then Johnny Wilkinson made a career of it. And then I obviously tried to pursue football. Funnily enough, I had a trial at Bristol City.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I ended up in a team full of Welsh people.
No
And
way.
they were all speaking Welsh. I didn't know what was going on. And we had to wear the most hideous 19, even at the time, this has been late 80s, and we were wearing like a 1970 Bristol City's kit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's just horrible.
Did it have a collar on it?
Yeah, it was just like really pointy collar. It just looked terrible.
Yeah.
It's like, you're thinking it's going to be glamorous, and it's not. And obviously, needless to say, I didn't get through, and I ended up playing for various teams, and I got my coaching badges. I was advised, look, get your coaching badges,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
if you don't make it football, at least you got the badges. And I kind of like did it begrudgingly.
Yeah.
But I was like, and then I thought, well, you can't be a manager unless you're good at football. Like you've made it as a player, which isn't true, but that's the perception that I had.
Yeah.
And I think I got injured on my left foot. I got trod on, and so I had like a hairline crack. And I was trying to get into a non-league team. I think the year before I'd had a game where a Southampton scout had come to watch, played the best game of my life.
What position did you play?
I was playing on the right wing and then
okay.
left as well.
Okay.
I think it was just when people started to cut in, like a right footer would probably want to go on the left so they can cut in. And I think the ball dropped out the sky, I kneed it, and then volleyed it into the top corner. There's a guy with his dog, and I'm like, yes, the guy's there. That's obviously the scout, right? Because he said he was coming. So I was like, brilliant, So I'm like, that must be the scout, and had a great, we won 5-1 on cloud nine. I was playing, funnily enough, in a Churches League representative team that was playing a national competition. So he just entered this nationally, so we travelled all over the place. And we were playing a team from Wales, and we beat them 5-1. And in fact, the manager was like sending players on, going, break his legs. It was just the weirdest thing. Never heard it. And we won, and it was like on a high. Anyway, I got back, got in, and there was a message on the answer machine, like the old phones had a little number, press play. It's the scout. I'm so sorry, can't make it.
No way.
So then I obviously spoke to them. They said, look, the best thing for you to do is you can get into non-league, then we'll come back and see you again. They said, yeah, I know what you're doing, but it's almost like being called up for England. It was so like a few and far between thing to play at that standard.
Yeah.
They said it'd be better if you got into non-league. So I said, okay. And I think within the first 2 weeks of me, I've trained the summer, and then the first 2 weeks of the season, the manager got fired. So it's like great, and it just didn't. It just wasn't happening. And I think by then my confidence was slowly evaporating.
Yeah.
Got injured, and then I ended up playing for another sort of like outside of the non-league teams, and really enjoyed it. Had great fun, and I was starting to move from I'm not going to make it as a player. I'm going to have fun with it, and I think that's what I did in the end. And then there's that shift where I've got my badges. I coached over the summer, but at the same time I went to college doing design and communication.
Right.
And then naturally that became what I did as a career.
Yeah.
And you look back, didn't you? I think every footballer's got I missed out on making it type story. And I think there's two things. You've got to have exceptional talent.
Yeah.
And I think there's the degree of exceptional mindset. And then I think there's not enough is said is that having the right people around you, like the right manager.
100%.
And I think that's probably what I didn't have. I think if I had a decent coach in the fact that could have showed me where to run, showed me do that, I had the fitness, I had the speed, I could kick with both feet, I could do all those things, but probably football brain wasn't quite there in the way that it should have been or could have been at that level. And I had a fun time playing for years and years and years afterwards, running football teams and stuff like that. But it became fun then. Yeah. It could become, this is my career. And for you, it's a similar thing. It was, that would solve a lot of problems if I made it. And maybe that was the wrong motivation as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you're competing at that level, it's not fun. It just isn't fun. Yeah. It's fun if you're winning.
Yeah, of course.
But, in training and in the changing rooms with the manager, it's not fun really. And at college I had a manager who used to be the first team manager of Leeds, and he was also a professional footballer.
Right.
So he was very hardcore. He was a great manager, however there was no fun involved in playing. Yeah. And I think what you said about having the right manager or the right people around you is so important, because if you don't click with somebody or click with your coaches or the manager, no matter your ability, you kind of just get pushed to the back of the queue anyway. Yeah. So
I look back now, there were some managers that I played really well for, and other managers just didn't trust the word they said. And I think, there were some managers where, like the one that ran the representative side was a proper coach. He gave me tips and tricks and things to do that I would still do now if I was still playing. Do you know what I mean? Because it made sense, and I saw a direct dividend from being able to do those things. Mm-hmm. And I think there's probably a greater degree of good coaches now that probably wasn't at my level. I mean, my friend Raf, who went all the way to Manchester United, you talk about the hardness, that's what he had. It's like scream and shout at you, and if you stood up to it, great, and if you didn't, you're not good enough. Yeah. Today we understand different personalities and types, and understand that some people like to be shouted at, some people hate it. Yeah. How to get confidence, and there's a bit more intelligence and self-awareness that comes. But I think my flip was definitely in the right direction. I think when we talk about purpose, is that we have skills, talents and abilities, and I think that wasn't my superpower. Football wasn't my superpower. Yeah. There were other things that I wasn't even aware of. But as a kid growing up and watching football on TV, we all want it to be our superpower, right? Yeah. And I think there was that realization that maybe I'm better at doing other things. And then time has told that yes, I am. Yeah. And I think that's where I talk about purpose. It's like we can engineer our own purpose, or we can lean into what we're really good at naturally. Yeah. And naturally, I wasn't a Ronaldo, and I'm not saying everyone has to be, but I wasn't good enough to be, a professional footballer. Now, I could have been good enough to play to a certain level if I had the right people around me, but I knew I had to work at it. Yeah. And that was just it.
Yeah, definitely. And what you mentioned as well earlier, after I said that it would solve a lot of problems for me.
Yeah.
You know, growing up, the thought of becoming a professional footballer, and I was decent, you know, it wasn't a delusional thing. There is an element of delusion in there to go that far.
It has to be, yeah.
But I knew I had some ability, and I just thought, if I become a professional footballer, like, all of my problems will go away. You know, I'll, like, relationships, friendships, my family, money, all of that will be fine. It'll be taken care of. And almost that title or status of just being a professional footballer would be enough for me. Obviously I was wrong, and I was young, and that was a naive thought process, but that does get you into competitive sports because you think that it will be, you know, the be all or end all for you, and then when you get there you realize it's really tough. It's actually not that at all, and you have to be cut out for it, and you do have to have exceptional natural ability in order to actually make it, you know.
Yeah, and I think what it did for me is when I run a football team many years later, you know, we were getting kids that had come out of the academy, like Bristol City, where they'd been told, like, our goalkeeper was told he wasn't tall enough.
Right.
So he's 5'11" and he's been let go, and he'd been like with them for years, and then it was all of a sudden,
it's crazy.
You're not tall enough. So what's he supposed to do? Like hang off a tree and pull him
Grow,
down?
yeah.
You know, there's not a lot you can do about that. And actually, that might be the truth, that he's not tall enough for what they're looking for. But you know, for me, he can't do anything about his physical size. That's just the way things are.
Yeah.
And so that you could argue there's a bit of fortune in it as well, being at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's almost like if he had been born 10 years earlier, he probably would have made a decent career out of it, because he was a phenomenal keeper for us.
Yeah.
And I think where I'd seen it is that kids would go to academies, and we're working with a company where the lady's a psychologist, and she says, I not only have the academy kid who's been signed sat in my room, but I have the parents, and then I tell them they've got less than 1% chance of making it.
Yeah.
And she'll say to them, what are you? You know, who do you think? And then they go, well, I'm a professional footballer. And she'll go, no, you're not. You're actually in the academy, number one. And number two, you've got less than 1% chance of making it. But first and foremost, you're a human. And what she can see is she can see the expectation on the parents. Like, same thing. The child thinking, hey, I'm going to solve all the problems. So he's carrying the weight of the whole family.
Yeah.
And she's trying to remove that as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I saw a thing the other day with Crystal Palace that if players don't make it there, now they're going to remain in connection with them for 3 years afterwards.
Right. Okay.
So things are improving in that academy world as well. That, you know, like, because if football's the only thing and then you lose it, it's like, well, life's not worth living. And there's been instances where people have ended themselves because they didn't get what they wanted. But thankfully, you kind of lent into other things, which is great.
Yeah, for sure. You make a great point. When you're in that atmosphere, your identity is wrapped up in becoming a footballer. And it can be really toxic and unhealthy for you, because you forget that you're just a human first before anything else. And it's like, well, my value is tied up in whether I sign a professional contract or not. Not in just who I am as a person. And you kind of lose that, you know. And that is because you're only valued for what you can do on the pitch as well. When you turn up to training, it's not like, hey, how are you? Like, how's your week been? You don't get that support, at least from my experience. And I know things are improving now. But I do look at the entertainment industry now, which I would include sports in, from a different angle. And it is very money driven. You know, it's cutthroat because money's involved. And they want the best results, the best teams, the best players, so they can make the most money. So I think the human aspect of it gets lost there. And I know they're trying to bring it back around now, which is great, because there are so many 17, 18, 19-year-olds who get released and they think that their life isn't worth living anymore. Because somebody's opinion of them says that, no, you're not good enough to sign this professional contract.
Yeah, and I think that the thing that's shifting, which, you know, working with this company, is the thing that's shifting is one of the things that they spend a lot of time on is mindset. And like elite education and elite sports. And what they're realising is that if they can educate those players to a level where they have elite mindsets, even if they don't make it, that elite mindset can work very well in an entrepreneurial world.
Definitely.
And so there's a lot of elite sportsmen at the end of their careers going into coaching now and coaching entrepreneurs because they're using a lot of the things that they learned. And I think, so a lot of that, certainly the mental side of the game now is coming into entrepreneurship that's helping entrepreneurs succeed and understand what it takes to be under that amount of pressure. Like for instance, if you're playing for a Premier League team, you've got not only 60,000 fans in the stadium telling you, you've got everybody on the radio, on social media. So you've got to learn how to handle those things. And I think with an entrepreneur, they take on those similar expectations. They want to set a new course for their family. They've got everybody looking at them. It's social media. So there are there are comparisons there. And your self-worth is based on your success. And I think that the shift I've seen recently has been, it's not all about money, it's about impact. And people are now saying, okay, we want to be, we want to be successful, but we actually want to make an impact in the world that we're involved in. And that's maybe where the paths start to change a little bit from elite sports to, entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship's become more cause driven. So you mentioned that you made a decision from the football, and then you started going to church at the same time as you're looking for a new career. So how did that sort of all work together?
So the reason I talk about church, as you would know, it's just a massive part of my life. In fact, I wouldn't be where I am now if it wasn't for having a relationship with Jesus. That's just the truth. And I grew up in an atheist household. My parents split up when I was 2, and growing up, I went through like a lot of different trials and trouble and things like that. And that's why I say that becoming a professional footballer was going to, in my eyes, solve all of that, and especially confidence. Like I valued myself based on that. And then I went to college in Bristol for football at 16, and I met this boy there. We played football together. And he used to talk to me about Jesus all the time. And I'd be like, mate, please stop. Like, I don't want to listen, because I grew up in an atheist household, and that was my belief. But he just kept going and going and going in a gentle way, but he was just planting these little seeds in me. And, over time over about the span of 18 months, I had to kind of drop my pride and be like, maybe I will listen to him now. And then at that time was when I got injured, and I was in a really low place. And I remember what he said to me would just mull over in my mind, and I started reading scriptures in the Bible and different things like that. And then around November 2023, I was making the decision, okay, I'm going to stop playing football when the season in January. And I was trying to start a business and looking into what you can do, because like you said, a lot of the traits that you have as a sportsman transfer into business. They really do. And at the same time, I was trying to understand more about God and what life was about and what that meant, because I think growing up from around the age of 11 or 12, I was reading, I was like doing meditation, stretching, like journaling, doing visualization, all of these different things, and trying to become the best version of myself from a really young age. So I was exposed to self-development, if you would call it that. And I'd say I built a foundation, but none of it ever solved any of the problems I actually had. So it all really led me to when I came to church in April last year. And at the time I was working in B&Q, and I was also in university. And I dropped out of university and I walked out of my job, and I really felt like I needed to just go all in on business. And I hadn't been to church at that point, but I was praying and I was trying to get to know God and who he was. And I had this urge just to reach out to somebody that I didn't know. You've had him on your podcast, Evan Selick. This urge that I can't even explain. I put it off because I was like, I don't know him. Like, I don't understand why this is here. And I put it off for about 2 months. And then I reached out to him because I was praying for a new client, and he ended up being my first client. And he was also praying for a Christian business partner and also to start coaching people. which was the service that I offered. So I was praying for a client and to find God, and he was praying for those two things, and we came together, and in one transaction, all of that
It's been sorted.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I came to church and gave my life to Jesus, and then I never looked back, and I realized that, like you said, about impact and purpose, I am called to help people and serve people, and being on a football pitch is not going to have the same effect and impact and use of my ability as I would be in business and in a atmosphere where I'm around people. So from there, I started my business the day after I came to church, which seems so cliche, I know, but that's just the way it worked.
Yeah.
And since then, things have gone pretty well, and all of the foundations and characteristics and experiences that I went through in football, they've all transferred over, and I've been able to utilize them now. So it didn't go to waste,
Yeah.
So that experience for me and that pivot changed me, because my identity was no longer wrapped up in if I was going to be a footballer or burning myself out to exhaustion because I feel like I need to buy my mum a house. And these are real things you go through as somebody trying to make it in the sports world. It was now having a relationship with Jesus and what that meant to me.
Yeah.
And my identity was in that rather than in anything the world could offer me,
Yeah, so now you're doing business and that. Do you find now that your goals have shifted as well in terms of, is it still buying your mum a house, or is that like, if it happens, it happens, and it's much further down the line now?
It is still a goal.
Yeah.
But it comes from a place of just wanting to take care of her.
Yeah.
Whereas before it was probably an egotistical thing, of handing her over keys and being like, there you go, and just acting blasé about it because I wanted to feel good about myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I think my goals have changed. I used to be, and people would tell me, oh, you're young anyway, so for you to be money oriented, that's normal. Everyone goes through that. I don't think because I'm young, I have to go through things just because I'm young and then wait a while and come out on the other side. You don't have to do that. You can spare yourself the years, as you said to me a couple of weeks ago. So now my focus is changed more to how I can help people and serve people. And I would say I have a passion for how I can serve people that have gone through experiences I've gone through, like 15, 16, 17-year-old boys growing up, the troubles they go through. If they're in sports, they're trying to find value in themselves.
Yeah.
I'm leaning more towards that now and seeing where God wants me to go. And people always say when you provide value first, the money follows later. Yeah. And I think that's so important to lead with that, and everything else will work itself out.
Yeah, I mean, it's that mentality of, it's not selling to people, it's serving people, and how do you serve them better than anyone else? In terms of your role in your job, I mean, do you want to just share what you actually do for clients and companies? Like, what does B-Scale do?
Yeah, sure. So I was looking at different online businesses around 2 years ago, 18 months ago. There's so many out there now, and I just wanted a stepping stone to actually start in business somewhere.
Yeah.
So the industry term of what I do is called selling info products. Mm-hmm. So essentially I work with content creators and influencers online. If they're in the e-commerce niche, or they might be fitness, they're posting content that has value in it, and people are watching it, they're engaged, but there's nowhere from them to go from that point of watching the content to actually getting more value from the creator.
Yeah.
So I essentially implement systems so they can monetize their audience through coaching and consulting programs, and I implement all of the sales systems. And with that, some of the people I've worked with have been, really small to start out with, and I've still been able to assist them in some way to walk out their passion and do what they want to do and serve others. It's like I'm serving them so they can serve other people.
It's great.
Yeah, so I've been doing that for around 18 months now.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, a lot of education on the internet that's out there, but there's a lot of people that are getting tired of just pushing content out and not getting anything out of it or anything back, and not knowing what to do next. One of the best things we've done as a business is do the podcast. What's been great about that is that you can spend so much time posting, which we still do, like on the various different platforms, but you can reach so many more people with video content and podcast content. And for me, we've seen, I can post an image and a nice saying and, educate you and help you, and I can do that, and that'll get maybe 100 views or something like that. But with video content, you get 10,000 views, and that's the difference. And then when I look at who's been looking at my LinkedIn or who's been looking at my TikTok or whatever, there's all these random people that I don't know, which is great. You just getting the reach with that content. But, our thing is when people then reach out or I go networking, I've got places to funnel them into. So not everyone knows how to do that, which is great. That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And like you mentioned, a lot of these people making content, they love it, but they have no idea how to take people from point A to point B, or to turn that into an income or a business in any way. Because we all build a digital footprint in some way, and we have everyone has a personal brand. It just looks different. A personal brand, I feel like, is often associated with people with a huge following, but everybody has one because it's about what people see your brand as, regardless, And I've worked with people that have 2,000 followers and people that have, nearly 600,000 followers, and you can make businesses out of both of those followings. And people are actually able to capitalize on what they're good at, help other people. And one of the most rewarding things then is seeing this coaching group that one of your clients has started, and somebody just makes their first £1,000 online and they're only like 14 or something, and people are just not so trapped to the norm anymore. They can actually go outside of that, which is great. So doing that has been a really good stepping stone.
And I think the other thing is there is good quality content out there that can educate, and I think a lot of stuff that's out there in content world that is not necessarily in universities either. So like I remember people when they were going to university, and then you got entrepreneurs reading business books and saying, oh, you need to read this, you need to read that, and you're like, yeah, whatever, and then you realize as you get older and you read it and go, oh my gosh, there's so much good content in here. Now we're getting it on the video, and we can scroll and we can watch it and we can see it. And I think there is a lot of, there's a lot of, I would say, AI generated content you can see a mile off. But there is some really good content that you can educate yourself on, and people creating good tribes. Definitely. Communities, if you like, to educate people with. So if you are into, you could set up a group which is, failed footballers. And then you could have like 1,000 people of failed footballers in that room, and they've all got their story, but then they're using that elite mindset, and there's that unifying purpose in terms of how do they apply it to business, and you've got a great tribe. And I think people underestimate the power of the niche in tribes, and begin to educate. And I think if you've got 1,000 people and they're all paying you £100 a month, it's a decent income as well. Definitely. And with content now, it's so multifaceted, and there's so many different avenues you can go down. Like with a physical book, you can turn that into long form content, short form content, and you essentially have unlimited goes to post content and go viral, or build a community and build a big brand for yourself. And having a niche is so important, because you attract the people that actually want to be engaged with your stuff, and would also become a customer as well. If there is no niche and you're too broad, then you cast a wide net, but nobody actually will come down your funnel then, because there's nothing specific there for people to latch onto. And everybody just has a problem that they want solving, really. So I always say this to the guys I coach, because I do also coach people on the side. If you're running a fitness program and it's just to help people lose weight and build muscle, or it's to help dads who are over 40
lose stubborn belly fat. That is more likely to go well for you because you're solving a real problem that people go through.
Yeah.
And with that, like you said, then you build communities of people. So what I see with a lot of the clients I work with, because I'm behind the scenes, so I help them set everything up, and then they're the ones that do the coaching.
Yeah.
You know, in some of them, there's like 15 to 25-year-olds who are predominantly male, and they've all been through similar experiences, and now they're all working towards a common goal.
Yeah.
And they were all doing it together, so they have that support system.
Yeah.
And you see people go much further when it's like that as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The technology that's out there now, you know, like videos, setting it up, getting out the platforms, getting your message out there. It's more accessible than ever, and I think people people that hook into that and say, yeah, let's do it, build an email list and then communicate regularly and stuff like that. It's possible. It's just not everybody knows how.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's unconventional, you know. And I think I always say to Ollie, we got a great business called Humans, and what's great about that is it's creating a community in a classroom. It's about leadership and whatever. But I know the UK market is some way behind the US market.
Definitely.
In terms of invested in yourself.
Yes.
And so the US market, just like they would buy a car or a washing machine, have a budget to invest in themselves. They just don't even question it. Whereas in the UK, we've got people moaning and they've got to pay £5 for a book.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's the direct comparison, where a lot of this sort of marketing that you're involved with, certainly I am, lends itself really well with what's going on in the US. And I've said the UK are about 10 years behind. They really are.
Yeah.
You know, we're still sounds bad, but we're still doing conventional education. So like we do sixth form, then we go to college, then we go to university. But actually, what you do, that university degree it's got a ceiling of how much money it can earn you.
Yes.
And so if you know that this job, let's say this job that you get having gone to university is only going to earn you that amount of money, it's going to take you 25 years to pay that loan off that you got to do that degree, just to say you got a degree.
Yeah.
When in fact, you might not need a degree in the first place.
Yeah.
You know, and so no one's asking those deeper questions. Whereas, of course, if you're a doctor and you're going into medicine, you need to go and learn.
Yeah.
But at the same time as that there are other ways of education now where you can go and work in a hospital. You can work your way up and get educated at the same time, or you can work in a business and get a degree while you're working.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's beginning to shift now, where people are saying that actually, maybe 3 years worth of study with 60 grand's worth of debt is not the most intelligent use of your time.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm open to what that could look like, you know, going in the future. But at the same time, there's content creators now that are educators as well. And that's what you're doing. You're helping people educate on nutrition and all that other wonderful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. In my experience, the US market is so far ahead, you know, even from a mindset perspective, because I used to take sales calls for my clients. So I would be on sales calls with ranges of people. And I also have connections with people in the US industry that do what I do. And people over there, they don't bat an eyelid at investing a few thousand into a program for themselves. It's easy, it's fine. Yeah. Whereas over here, you know, it's really difficult to do that and to even get people over the edge and to show people the value, or even where they are, like how stuck they are in one mindset in the UK, whereas in the US it's just like second nature to them, really. And it's more apparent that there's opportunities over there because I feel like they're created because people are looking for them, whereas over here it's not the case, and it is very going down the conventional route.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say the two differences between the countries. The US is very much how can I, and the English mentality, or British mentality is more why can't I?
Yeah.
So they're always looking for an excuse not to do it. Mm-hmm. Whereas America is like, well, let's just make it happen. And I think, you know, certainly spending time with people in the US, it's just the general positivity, where it's because it's in the DNA of the Constitution and But certainly in this country, we tell you how it can't be done. Mm-hmm. And if someone does that, well, who do you think you are? Get back in line.
Yeah.
Whereas in America, it's like, oh, well done, go for it. You
Yeah.
know? And there's that kind of like champion behind someone making a go of it and doing it. So, great in terms of helping people build those communities and make things on. So what does the future hold? You're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So 20 years on, what does that look like? Is that like, oh my gosh, that's too far ahead? Because you've done a lot already in a very short period of time.
Yeah. I am 20. However, I don't feel 20.
Mm-hmm.
That's the truth. Mentally, I feel like 10 to 15 years on,
Mm-hmm.
especially with certain characteristics you have of somebody that enters into a space like this at a young age. You feel like you carry a different responsibility on your shoulders anyway, which matures you.
Yeah.
So I am like prepared for the future. Like mentally, I feel so. Honestly, hopefully I'll have a wife and children by then.
Yeah.
When I'm 40. But I think I'm always, my goal is to always continue growing.
Yeah,
as I am. I don't want to stay static. So when I'm 40, I want to be, a much more refined version of who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what I said about, partnering with content creators like I do, that has been a stepping stone for me. And as time is going on, it's funny you invited me on, because I feel like that isn't giving me the purpose that I need in business. I feel like I'm not utilizing my ability enough doing that, because it's more like a solopreneur, as we would call it.
Yeah.
It's a one-man business. You have a few contractors and things like that, but it's not building something real. And I feel like I'm at the point where I want to build something real now and establish a business and a corporation with employees and different things like that,
Yeah.
And obviously you'll know what happened with Charlie Kirk. I think the legacy that he's left behind is much more valuable than any amount of money.
Yeah.
So for me, in these next 2 decades, which seems really far away, I want to build something that is real, it's tangible, it provides jobs for people, but it also makes an impact worldwide as well.
Yeah, I think the thing is for me is allowing or having discussions that we're not allowing to be had now.
Yeah.
Like for example, we talked about university and being open and say, well, is it reproducing what it's set out to reproduce? Is what's being educated there really helping society, or is it hindering it?
Yeah.
For me, it's a case of, there are things that we've done for hundreds of years, and if we look back in the fullness of time, we've noticed how we're not getting the same results we were getting 30, 40 years ago. Yeah. I'll give you an example. So young people coming out of university and college, I would argue that not everyone there is ready for life. They're not ready to embrace, the normal life of, taking responsibility and growing up and making a change. They kind of like almost come out the system more as a victim rather than a victor. So there's always this, oh, I can't do it because I'm this, or I can't do it because I've been labelled this, or X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, that's not great. And then I look at it in my own life, running a business and getting work experience people in that generally, they struggle to tell me what they want to do in life, but at the same time have no confidence in themselves anyway. So you go, well, you've come from school and they haven't got the confidence. Be confident, and you might not know where you're going, but at least you're confident. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to go and find out and make a go of it. But I don't see them saying, hey, I'm going to make a go of it either. So I look at it and I go, well, what Charlie Kirk did to some degree, yes, he brought the elements of faith to the conversation, but also challenged what was being educated as well.
Definitely.
And I think, and for me, it's like what's happening now is that there are big questions being asked on those establishments that have been around for hundreds of years, and the methodology of why we do things like working 9 to 5, like educating university is a stream. For me, I've always said that the apprenticeship scheme for me makes so much more sense than locking someone away for 3.5 years and then maybe taking a year out to get work experience.
Yeah.
That real life interaction with adults and humans is underestimated, and the ability to learn on the job is underestimated.
Yeah.
So when I look at it and I go, well, when you challenge the systems, and the question is, well, we've always done it that way. Is that, well, if we've always done it that way, then we're changed for change's sake without actually asking the questions of what have we evaluated that change. And I think if you ask the vast majority of employers, they're not getting the type of people that they want to employ because they're not rounded humans.
No.
And I think that, and so it's like, well, how can you make a difference? So one of the ways that we're making a difference is with humans being happier, healthier, smarter, and kinder. We're looking at those pillars and saying they've watched generations go the other way, where they work themselves to death because that's what we have to do to be successful, and then they're burnt out. They've got no, their marriages collapse. All these things. We say, well, that doesn't work either.
Yeah.
And I think for me, we're in an exciting place with the emergence of education, video, those other things, where we can find what works and educate people what works without having to go through the filter of a conventional system, and then start showing the evidence of it.
Yeah.
And in America, there is evidence of young people like you absolutely flying. But they found their tribe, they found their niche, they're making an impact, and they're educating, and it works.
Yeah.
And then they're teaching other people how to do the same. Whereas in the UK, it's like, oh, hang on, well, it's a bit American, isn't it? It's as if it's a bad thing.
Honestly, yeah, that's so true. And I think my experience as well, being around people of a university age, and I went for a couple of months before I dropped out.
What was it? What did you go and try and study?
Business, and it was terrible. To be completely honest, that's just my experience. If you're a doctor or something, you definitely need to go. However, you hear about a lot of people taking gap years. I believe for a lot of people, university is just a time of gap years, because that's my experience. Because you get to do what you're comfortable doing regardless, because you've been through school and had to sit papers, and university is no different really. You're living in dorms with people your age, you're going out on the weekends. That's traditional. Obviously there is exceptions, but it is almost a placeholder for people to just go there because they don't know what they want to do yet. And then they come out with a degree that they're not really bothered about, and they still haven't developed any real skills to go into the marketplace. And there's no experience as a person either to develop your character, to find out who you are, because you're just offered something quick and easy, and then you have to pay all of the debt back anyway, So I think I completely agree. I'm very passionate about that, because if people want to go to uni and become a doctor, or they're really passionate about a certain career path, that's great, that's fine. But the majority of people, it's not for that reason. So when I mentor people my age now or younger, I always encourage them of their ability to do it, because I had no experience. I didn't know what I was doing. I just stuck at it, and here I am. And I remember I was in a class at university, one of the handful of times I went in, and we were going around the circle, and they were asking everyone what they wanted to do, and I said, I'm probably going to drop out, to be honest. I want to start a business. And these two boys there, they were just laughing at me, and they were like, oh yeah, all right, whatever, and that is the mentality. It's not deemed as possible, but in reality it really is. And
I think that's where I look at things and say, education has to have the ability to educate, has to have the ability to sort of like empower, has the ability to leave an impact for the community. And I think what you end up with is 3 to 4 years of drifting through something with a lot of debt, which actually might not do any of those things. And ultimately, the thing that is the most important is the character in a human. And there is no character taught. If anything, it's go wild, go crazy, and we get people like handing out loads of flyers to nightclubs and and the Freshers Week and all this is just. But at the end of Freshers Week, some people are left with decisions that are going to affect their lives for the next 5, 10, 15 years.
Yes, and there's a human behind that decision. Which we often forget about.
And it's like, well, we just go and have a good time or whatever. And it's like, well, actually, maybe not. And I think what I've seen is I've seen that whole the generation coming through now are asking those deeper questions of what does meaning look like? You know, how do I do leave an impact? Is this the right route to go down? Why do I? So they're asking these difficult, why do I want to be 60 grand's worth of debt? You know, what, is property the best thing to invest my money in?
Yeah.
And that's good. I'm almost enjoying that, where those questions have been asked. What we considered as normal is now being asked, going, well, let's take a step back here and look at the evidence, because now we have evidence of 50, 60 years worth of educating this way. And it's not producing what it should produce. And I think that's, we talked about Charlie Kirk and his thing. And, you know, he's on these campuses asking bigger questions of life as well as of education. And, you know, free speech, and ends up having his life ended early because he was too free in his speech.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's how do we as a society allow for healthy discussion again? Because that, for me, you know, if we look at the Bible and we look at Greece, they were in open theatres where they would philosophize and they would all discuss.
Yeah.
You know, they would have these deep conversations on the meaning of life, you know, and we want to shut that down. And I'm like going, well, you know what, it might be because someone might have the answer, and someone might have the evidence based on what we deem as conventional wisdom. It might not be the wisdom that we need to make decisions by. And I think we've got a sick society, a society that feels sick, because they've removed certain elements that are absolutely fundamental to life. One is spirituality. The other one is the other one is, you know, rewarding morals. You know, and the third thing is doubling down on crafting character. You know, well, we don't want to be too hard on people. But you need sometimes to be told no. Well, you need a deadline, you know, to get things done. You need these things to help us become better at what we do. You need some competition, or you need someone to say you're not good at this, but actually you're better at this. Oh, how dare you? Well, actually, everyone can see it. And then someone's had the truth to say, well, actually, you're good at this, but if I put you over here, you'll be even better. And that's actually where your skill set is. And I think for you as a leader and whatever, is to identify that earlier. And it's also being self-aware enough to say, you know what, I'm not a footballer. I thought it was. I just didn't really, if I deep down admitted it. Can we not have those conversations earlier? Do you know?
Exactly. And you don't have to waste years that way.
That's right.
You know, you don't have to start when you're 20, but I'm 34 now, and now I'm kind of just getting there. It doesn't have to be that way, but I feel like that's so normalized that people struggle for so long because nobody challenges the narrative. But actually, we're expecting a different outcome, or why isn't this working? But we never want to challenge the narrative. But you look at Charlie Kirk and different people, regardless if you share the same beliefs, a lot of the time there is just somebody behind what they're saying that cares and wants to, you know, display a point that may help you, and you can take that how you will, instead of it being shut down or it coming across as judgmental. Sometimes we have to speak truth in love to give people, you know, the best for them. And I think if I wasn't honest with myself about football, then where would I be now? You know, if I just continued running myself into the ground, if I let my ego get in the way, if I didn't follow really where I felt God was taking me to, I could still be playing every Sunday, you know, being shouted at on the side. I might just be working in a job I don't like, and I'm still trying to go because I'm scared of change or trying something new.
Yeah, and I mean, like for me, I managed to find the place of where I wanted to head, and got there at the age of 27, ready to run an agency, and I own it. But my skills, talents, abilities have been using for evil rather than for good. I'd say I ended up working with brands that would end people's lives rather than celebrate them. So you can go 100% really hard, fast and furious, that perceived to be the right direction, but maybe like 1 or 2 degrees off. And I think I had to come back out and reset and go, right, I know what my skills, talents, abilities are. And then I was brave enough, even at 27, which was deemed young, to say, but I'm still using them wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was the reset where eventually I aligned purpose and align my skills, talents, abilities, and then become more effective in creating impact.
Yeah.
And I think you're doing that at 20 years old. And I think, you know, where you're going to be in 40 years is going to be much further than where I was at 40 years. But you making brave decisions at a young age. And I think you're making decisions or acting on what is considered the norm and going, that's not going to do it for me. And you're brave enough to back yourself. And that's half the journey of entrepreneurship, backing yourself when nobody else does in order to live a life that no one else can live.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate way of looking at things. You know?
Yeah, it is. And I think what I used to tell myself is, what is the worst outcome that can happen? If everything goes wrong, what is the worst that will happen? Will I still have a bed to sleep in? Will I still have clothes and food to eat? And if I will, then I'll be okay, you know? Because when I dropped out of university, I didn't ask for anybody's permission. You know, that's just me. I didn't ask for anybody's permission. And with my job, I worked part-time at B&Q. I didn't have any money, any savings, nothing like that. And I remember I had, you know, a little incident with the manager at the time who told me that if I carry these traits into life, I'm not going to get anywhere. And I just walked out and I was just like, I don't need to be here anymore. And I had no clients at that time either. But the worst possible outcome was that I just have to go and find another job in a couple of months if things don't work out. And they ended up working out. And people say, oh, that sounds cliche, but it's not. Especially if you have a belief in something, and mine is in Jesus, you have to move sometimes, and then God will move on your behalf.
It's that faith. It's a demonstration of faith, faith in yourself, faithful in what you feel that you're being led to, which is following God, you know. And for me, it's backing yourself enough to say, you know, this isn't going to work for me. And you know, 27 years old, I didn't know where I was going to head.
No.
I just sat in that boardroom meeting and said, this isn't for me. And they all looked at me like, well, you're an idiot. You just 10 years to get here. What the heck you doing?
Yeah.
But you know, I'm richer for the sake of where I find myself.
Yeah.
Is that I'm still married. I got 3 kids. You know, yes, I got businesses. Yes, I'm impacting people. You know what? I'm living a life that I enjoy, and that for me, it has good days, it has bad days. There are different pressures out there, but ultimately, you know, for me, it's living a life on purpose is the most important thing.
Yeah.
You know, making the best use of your skills, talents, abilities, and leveraging them for now. Because you could have been born in the Middle Ages, right? You know, your business wouldn't work in the Saxon times, right? It works now. So you've been born for such a time as this, and they say, right, I've been born for such a time as I have the ability to learn content and help people, and maybe you'll start producing some content yourself, podcasts and books, and stuff like that in the future. So how can someone reach out and get in touch? So
have a YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, all just my name, Brandon Delve. I do need to get on LinkedIn. I do have an account. I just need to use it more. But yeah, you can contact me on any of my social media and I'll reply.
Okay. Well, it's been a great conversation from football to faith. And it's been really, really cool. And I've really enjoyed it. So thanks for taking the time. And we'll definitely get you back before you're 40.
Yeah, that would be great. No, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Purpose People podcast. How you can help us is to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. You can also subscribe to our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. That helps us get our message out there to help people go after their dreams, double down on it, and be successful in life on their terms.